Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As you know, many of our Detect and Detox Test Kit users find that they have toxic chemical exposures through their food choices. And increasing research have shown that these same chemicals like BPA, phthalates have been shown to alter the gut microbiome. And your gut influences more than just your digestive system. It also impacts your immunity, your mood, your sleep, heart health, weight, skin, and so much more. That's why today we're really glad to be joined by Kimberly Griffith, um, a microbiome specialist and also the head of science at Ombre. And Ombre provides gut and vaginal health tests that provides personalized microbiome reports, food suggestions, and probiotic recommendations. Hello, hi Kim.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm so glad this is happening. So everyone, this we have been planning this for a while, so I'm so glad this is finally happened.
Yes, it's been a while. Thank you so much for having me.
So glad, and I'm super excited about the topic we're gonna be talking about today.
Yes, I am too. Yeah, there's lots of good
Okay,
stuff around detoxification too. So I think it'll be
right. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a microbiome specialist.
sure. So my background is in functional medicine, specifically epigenetics. I'm sure you're aware chronic disease, autoimmune disease is on the rise. A driver of that is inflammation, and the microbiome can directly contributes to inflammation as well as gene expression. So I really focus in on working with clients on how to modulate the biome to suppress inflammation and how to increase those bacteria that contribute to beneficial metabolites that contribute to health. So,
So like more and more people are learning about the gut microbiome, but there are like, actually multiple type of biomes. And so like, explain to us like what is the microbiome?
sure. Um, so that's exciting for me as a microbiologist. It's exciting to hear that more and more people are learning about it. The gut microbiome is our largest biome, but there's also the oral, the skin, the vaginal. But the gut is the largest and made up mostly of bacteria. There are viruses, protozoa, fungi in there as well. But mostly bacteria makes up the gut microbiome.
So like how many types of microorganism like are we talking about living in the microbiome? You mentioned fungi, like bacteria and other things.
So there are thousands of species of bacteria. As far as to understand the vastness of this ecosystem, they say anywhere between 3 to 6 pounds of microorganisms live in you and on you, which makes up the microbiome. Um, and then, our brain is around 3 pounds. So that gives you an idea of it's pretty substantial. And on a cellular level, they used to think it was like 10 to 1. We are more microbial than human. Now they say about 5 to 1 or 1 to 1
Oh
microbial
wow.
human cells, which is still extremely impressive and understanding how this ecosystem affects our health. And we can see just on a cellular level how important it is.
That's crazy. Even just by the sheer amount of it, it's like
Yeah.
it's a lot.
So, yeah, some people can get freaked out by that. Like, what? 5 pounds of microbes living in me and on me? But we want that. We need that to protect us. So,
All right. So then what's the role of gut microbiome in our health?
yeah. So, it can go both ways. Most of the time, they live in a symbiotic state and they contribute to our health. Um, but really, what got me into it was looking at how they contribute to disease. Um, so, as far as contributing to our health, their synthesis, they regulate our immune system. Um, they produce short chain fatty acids. Some people are familiar with butyrate. That's one of the major short chain
Mhm.
fatty acids that contributes to our health. But they also can create some negative metabolites. One of the bacteria, large phylum of bacteria called proteobacteria, creates what's called lipopolysaccharides. And they live on the cell wall of the bacteria. When they die off, they're released. And as we know, our first stop of detoxification is the liver. These lipopolysaccharides hit the liver, and while the liver does a good job at clearing them out, it comes at an expense. They can damage the hepatocytes. They affect bile production. And so in the end, a high level of these lipopolysaccharides that may be living in your biome could negatively affect your liver and your detoxification. And also BPA exposure increases these lipopolysaccharides, which negatively affects your liver detoxification. So yeah, they're
That is
very
crazy.
influential.
Yeah, so then it causes pretty much the imbalance of the microbiome, and then also like then impact your immune function and your detoxification, and then you pretty much like your whole body.
Right. Yeah. And you don't, a lot of times what's going on in our body, we don't know there's inflammation or any negative effects until we see signs and symptoms. And then we're trying to swim upstream to figure out what's going on there. And that's why it's great that the education is getting out there about the microbiome, because we can start this journey of preventative health care and kind of monitoring our health to make sure like our detoxification system is working well.
Wow, totally on the same page. So what are some signs like that if the gut microbiome is becoming like imbalanced?
Well, I think most of us think of the normal signs like constipation or diarrhea, um, abdominal bloating, but there are other far-reaching signs such as brain fog, anxiety, depression. Our gut is connected to our brain. There's something called the vagus nerve. So those inflammatory LPS I talked to you about, they can drive up and down the vagus nerve, and that's how you have brain fog or other neurological issues. Metabolic issues, elevated weight. It's called increased energy harvesting. There's a really interesting study showing two mice that have no bacteria, and they give one mouse the microbiome from a obese individual, and then another one the microbiome from a lean individual, and then give them the same diet, same exercise routine, sleep, stress, and then you'll see the one with the microbiome from the obese individual starts energy harvesting. So it's holding on to more of those calories, which has shown us that the microbiome is the driver of some disease states. So metabolic, but also skin. Some people may not think of like acne or eczema related to the gut at all, and it completely can be related to the gut and that inflammation. Um, so yeah, I
Wow,
mean,
that's
I
like
can all look at
everything.
all 11 systems within our body. I mean, the liver, I mean, just everything. It's tied one way or another. A lot of times bidirectional, like the brain affects the gut and the gut can affect the brain, the liver. But not always, sometimes with the skin, it's the inflammation that's coming from the bacteria metabolites within the gut that are causing the eczema or flares within that we see. So,
Wow. So I mean, we want to have a good balance. So then like we really want to have the beneficial, the good guys,
yeah.
to maintain the good guys. So what are some ways to that we can help the beneficial bacteria in our gut?
Yeah. So, the easiest way I think about it, like, it's an ecosystem, and we think of other ecosystems like rainforests are, and what do they need to flourish? Right, they need the right environment for the community there, and then they need the right nourishment. So when we think of the environment of the gut, there's certain optimal pHs that the beneficial bacteria flourish, and then other times the pathogenic bacteria flourish. So probiotics have an effect on that, optimizing the environment to create the right environment for the beneficial bacteria to grow, and also target any pathogens that may be growing there. And then you also want the right nourishment. So those beneficial bacteria like certain foods. And there's research out there, like there's certain bacteria called Akkermansia that contributes to a healthy metabolic system. They really like dark red polyphenol foods, plant-based foods. Then there's the Faecalibacterium praunitii, which is our major butyrate producer. And butyrate is so health promoting, and it likes kiwi or sungold kiwi. And so all the item things that I can think of that they like to eat, it's all really good foods for you, which makes sense. And it's a diversity of different foods, different colors, lots of plant-based foods, but really thinking of what foods nourish those bacteria is what will help that environment grow, as well as probiotics.
That makes a lot of sense because whenever people think about like helping bacteria, they always think about fiber.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so like how much fiber should a person consume daily for a healthy gut?
Okay. So if you're going to take like an average of a 2,000 calorie diet a day, women need at least 25 grams. And then they generally say men 35 to 38 grams. A recent study came out that 5% of the US population gets anywhere near that. So, not surprising that the number one issue within GI distress within the US population is constipation, because the majority of people are not getting anywhere near that. But it also can be tied to autoimmune diseases. If you're not nourishing those beneficial bacteria that are creating those good metabolites for health, then we see how inflammation starts driving up in the body. So,
Yeah, and all the good food you mentioned, they're actually like really fiber rich too.
yes. Yeah, yeah, and if you see some of an example of a plate of, what based on the research, what foods feed these beneficial bacteria, it's so colorful and beautiful, and it's just hard to not, like, want to eat that, right? It's not just all white foods, or bland, it's all different colors. All these different bacteria like different types of foods and different color of foods, which kinda makes it easy to wanna eat that way sometimes.
I know that each person's gut microbiome is very individualized. It's very different, and that's why you know getting to know your own what's really living in your gut is like a really important. Is this the reason that why someone should get their gut tested?
Yeah, so, a lot of people initially go to get their gut tested just because they have GI symptoms. But the more research that comes out, magazines or blogs that people see, they're seeing that it's not just about GI symptoms. It's tied to so many different areas in life. And I think we're also in this really great time where people are really working for themselves, and they're working for preventative self care.
Mhm.
And one way you do that is to try to control the inflammation before signs and symptoms come about, right? It's a lot harder once symptoms come about to try to change. Not that you can't. So monitoring that pro-inflammatory bacteria and making sure you have those healthy metabolite producing bacteria is really important. So for me, testing is just an easy way to look to see, monitor a little bit that the inflammation is being suppressed and health is being promoted. And as far as detoxificating, making sure that you're on the journey of not causing more harm to your liver. In the meantime, while you try to do all these other areas, we want to make sure that the bacteria are not creating more harm on the liver. So,
Right. So how do you test for gut microbiome? Like, what's the process
so
like?
yeah, it's a stool test, which some people can get all nervous about. And it's not nerve icky or nervous. It's something you do hopefully every day. It's just taking a sample off of your toilet paper and mixing it. And we send you like a little proprietary buffer, mixing in there, sealing it up, and sending it off. Super easy, not messy. Um, should hopefully be something anybody could do any day. So.
So then once you send you a sample, you guys analyze the sample, you will give a personalized report back. So what do you learn on that report?
So we give you as much information as you probably would ever want and try to compartmentalize it so it's easy to understand, because this is a pretty complex area. Um,
Mhm.
but so first we give you a gut score. So it gives you an idea of the balance of the bacteria, good to bad to beneficial, and where you compare to the others that have tested. Then we give you all the abundance of the bacteria from the highest level phylum, like the Proteobacteria I talked about, increases inflammation. You'll get an idea of where you are, what percentage of the sample falls within Proteobacteria, all the way down to the species. So all the species of bacteria that are presented within the sample, and then what those different bacteria do based on the research that's out there, how they contribute to health, or how they may contribute to disease state. Any pathogens that we pick up will be presented. And then based on the pathogens and the balance of the biome, we recommend one of our clinically supported probiotics that one will target the pathogens that you have based on the strains that are in there, and as well as target any symptoms you may be dealing with. And then, like I talked about the food, we give you a personalized food report that tells you which foods you need to eat to increase those beneficial bacteria that are health promoting, and then also maybe what foods you should avoid that may
Yeah.
contribute negatively to the biome. So we try to give you a little bit of everything, what you need to know about yourself, your sample, and then how do we change it and how do we fix your symptoms. Um, so
So once you
probably it's a
all
lot of
these, yeah, this is like such good information. So once you learn these and you start making changes, like when do you come back to get tested again to make sure? Like how often do people need to get tested?
We say generally 3 to 4 months. It takes a little while for those bacteria to shift, right? Based on changing your diet, um, certain lifestyle factors, and then also incorporating the probiotics. Some people test every month. It's because it's not an expensive thing to do. They just want to see their trends and how they're progressing. And sometimes it's an affirmation for them of like you get positive feedback, right? And you contribute or you continue on the path. But generally 3 to 4 months to see a shift in the biome. And it does, you're not going to see some drastic shift. It takes a while to nourish these bacteria in the ecosystem. But you will hopefully see a shift if you incorporate the steps that we recommend.
So, other than gut microbiome, I want to also talk about a little bit about vaginal because a majority of our like test taker, our followers are couples who are trying to conceive. And I know there have been like a ton of research on how vaginal microbiome can impact like fertility. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the vaginal microbiome is fascinating to me. I mean, I could just talk forever for it, but um, at the highest level, knowing what bacteria is dominating the vaginal biome is a direct reflection of vaginal health. Uh, there are certain species of bacteria that make a really acidic environment. So even if you are exposed to pathogens, they kill them off. Like you don't even know it because they kill it off. But then there are also there is a dysbiotic state of the vaginal biome where it doesn't have that acidic health promoting protective ecosystem, and it leads you exposures for pathogens to come in and start growing and taking over. Directly with fertility, a lot of or dysbiotic state could lead to infertility, miscarriages, preterm delivery, um, and then as well as there are some that contribute to different cancer developments down the line. So for me, I just feel like, a lot of us women get tested yearly. This is just another monitoring test to just see how protective the vaginal biome is. Because when it's working, it does a really good job at what it's doing. But when it's not working well, it could contribute to some imbalances that negatively affect fertility.
So then, if someone going through the vaginal microbiome test, what do they learn from their personalized vaginal microbiome report?
Sure. So it's a bit simpler than the gut because there are only so many species that make up the vaginal biome. And it's very different in a way that diversity, all those bacteria I talked about in the gut, you want a very diverse ecosystem that does a whole bunch of different things like nutrient synthesis and training our immune system. In the vaginal biome, you really want to be dominated by a really good lactobacillus species that's creating an environment that keeps the pathogens off. So that's the first thing we tell you. We give you an overview of all the bacteria that we picked up from the sample, their abundances, if they're at a very high level. We also tell you what they're known for, how do they contribute to health, or if they're a pathogen, how do they contribute to disease? And then also not just health and disease, do they contribute to infertility? Do they contribute to preterm labor? So we also provide our endometriosis. We also provide all that information as well. And then the steps that the research is not as strong on the food side, but there are certain nutrients that contribute to vaginal health, as well as lifestyle factors. There could be things that you're doing that you don't even know that are negatively contributing to that environment. So we tell you kind of based on the literature and the research out there, what should you be staying away from if you are in a dysbiotic state?
Mhm.
It really is a cool environment. Like the lactobacillus that are protective for us, they feed off of something called glycogen, and glycogen increases from estrogen. So when a woman does get pregnant, her estrogen spikes, the glycogen goes crazy, and if she has good lactobacillus, then they start growing and just make this really protective environment, which is, I mean, to me, that's just fascinating.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other reason to test is when you have a vaginal birth, the baby is getting seeded off of those bacteria, right? So you generally want to know that it is not being exposed to a bunch of pathogens and such. So it's another.
So then, so for gut microbiome, you can take probiotics and then you can
Mhm.
eat certain food. I'm assuming for vaginal microbiome, you can also take probiotics. But
Sure.
then what's a good food for vaginal microbiome?
Yeah, so the vaginal micro or the vaginal biome, it is more selective on the food side. Every any of the research that is out there that shows that there are certain foods that contribute are on there. The probiotics are also a little bit stricter on the vaginal biome because you have to be able to show that you can take an oral probiotic and then it's going to make it to the vaginal biome. There are only a handful of strain specific studies that are out there, and we have those strains. That's one thing I'll say when anybody looks for probiotics, make sure that the strains have clinical research behind them, or else you don't know that they're doing any job besides making maybe a little more acid. So the vaginal microbiome probiotics are really aimed at any pathogens you may have, but also symptoms. Symptoms these probiotics are very effective in controlling symptoms like BB symptoms, candida and such. So
Oh wow, that's so cool. We actually have several questions, I think, from the audience. I'm gonna scroll up from the first one and then ask you. It looks like if people are like very engaged. One question is Akkermansia the one that makes me skinny or the one that turned fat mice into skinny mice?
so Akkermansia is tied to metabolic health. So it's supposed to contribute to health. Um, you really want to feed up your own Akkermansia within your body by eating certain foods. Um, but Akkermansia is tied to metabolic health. There are certain situations, I have to say, disclaimer, if Akkermansia is super, super high, which is not common, that it could be an indicator of inflammation because Akkermansia creates mucin to try to heal the gut lining. But that goes down a different route. Most of the times, Akkermansia um, is on the lower ends within the US population because we aren't feeding it up high enough. But that's the one that contributes to metabolic health.
So make sure you get your Akkermansia tested with Ombre before you do anything. At least figure out what's present first and how much.
Yeah, yeah, and it really, some of the information you'll learn from the test about what foods feed what bacteria, it helps when you eat. Sometimes we eat and we're just mindlessly eating. Oh, I think I should have some green stuff, or I think I should have that. When you start thinking of how these bacteria promote your health and suppress inflammation, like you start choosing different foods to make sure you incorporate into your life. Just like trying to detox correctly, there are certain things you want to add in and or take out and make sure you're aware of. Um, so yeah.
That sounds right. So we have one royal customer from Ombre. I always wondered about vaginal biome. We've done about 8 gut health tests with Ombre. Yeah, thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, the vaginal biome, like I said, I still love the gut biome. I love the vaginal biome is just It really is intriguing to look at, and the research is very strong. The microbiome research is not that old, but I think we have over 50 something thousand peer-reviewed studies published in the last 10 years. It's just growing like crazy because we're now starting to understand the effect of these microorganisms. Um, but I think I would recommend them taking the vaginal microbiome test. I think if they like the gut one, they'll really like the information they get back from the vaginal one and the tools they can incorporate.
I also feel the vaginal one feels because there's less species, and then there's like you once you learn that information, there's like a way better control versus gut. I feel like a gut is like a you have less control over your gut microbiome than your vaginal. So if you can start on your vaginal and then work along with your gut, that would be kind of cool too.
And sometimes the gut can be overwhelming to people because there are so many species. We try to make it in an easily digestible format for our customers, but the vaginal is we can compartmentalize a little bit better. So once you do your test, we will explain to you which community state type.
Mhm.
Some community state types are more protective than others. And then there is one that's a very dysbiotic community state type, which kind of based on the research indicates that you may be exposed, have higher risk for infection, or possibly not, or infertility issues. So that information alone, and just knowing your levels of pathogens, especially when you're trying to get pregnant, that's encouraging. Can be encouraging to know you're protected, or give you the route to need to incorporate different items into your life to target those pathogens while you're trying to get pregnant.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So another question is, I wonder if the stool test is the only reliable test for gut health. Any other kinds of tests?
Um, they're not necessarily in competition, but there are other tests that can be an indicator once you know the balance of the bacteria from a stool test. If you have high inflammatory bacteria and you're just concerned about inflammation, there's a calprotectin test that can give you an indicator of inflammation in the gut. Some people, once they know they have the bacteria that can make the inflammatory metabolites, they don't necessarily need to know the level of inflammation. They want to just target those bacteria. But that is another test that some people look at if they know they have high inflammation or are concerned.
Cool. Does Ombre plan to expanding strains on their probiotics?
We do. We have a lot of really great formulations in the works. Strains are my specialty. I cannot read enough about probiotic strains, and that's why I say when you look at probiotics, one, make sure the strains are listed, and two, look for the research that has the support for the strains. But yes, there are formulations that we are looking at to try to get the best of the best strains out there right now.
That's cool. It's so hard to balance the gut. Do you think taking a sample while constipated would alter the data?
If that it depends on what's normal for you. If you're constipated, is if that's normal for you, then yes, take it at that time so you're able to see the results. If it's just you traveled, you went for a long flight and you came back constipated, which is very common. And that's probably not the best representation. Or if you're on a elimination diet for a week, I would wait until you're outside that non-normal state, right? And then test. Um, so same as if you're on antibiotics, you may want to wait a couple of weeks before you test too, because it's not going to give you the normal representation of the biome.
That makes sense. So, wow, thank you so much for explaining all these things.
Oh, thank
This is like such good information.
Oh, good. I hope so. I hope so. It's my passion, and I do believe that more you'll just learn more and more about the microbiome, vaginal and gut, as more research is published.
Yeah, and then so everyone, thank you for joining. So be sure to follow Ombre at Ombre Lab, and then you can save 10% on the gut and the vaginal health test. And you can click. We'll have all the information in the LinkedIn bio, so you can tab and learn more. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We'll have to invite you back to talk more about vaginal microbiome because that's like so fascinating.
Oh, I would love it. Like I said, I could talk for so long. I try to pull it back a little bit, but yeah, I would absolutely. Thank
Okay, until next time. Thank you.
you. Bye.
Bye.